Okay guys, so this is Pendulum Grove's PG Tips. You've seen these videos before. This is where we talk about the most common questions that we see when it comes to well-being, whether it comes to mindset, general health, your physical stuff, your mental stuff, and the stuff that we find interesting as well. So today's question, or number one question, is what are the top 3 tips when it comes to setting goals?
Thanks one, Paul. So first one for me would be to ensure that it's in line with your intrinsic values. So very often we see people chasing what's extrinsically valuable for them. So extrinsic is where you are looking for the outcome, whereas intrinsic is where you're actually looking to enjoy the process itself and the action. So for me, make sure it's in line with your intrinsic values. It will result in a much more satisfying feeling when you accomplish it. Chasing your extrinsic values, as we've seen multiple celebrities, sports stars, people who you'll know in your life, if you chase what's extrinsic, once you actually reach it, there's no real satisfaction. It can be very short-lived and can then cause quite severe difficulties on the other side of that as well. So
just quickly, just to interject there, probably just people who've never heard what intrinsic and extrinsic means. You've spoken there about the process and the feeling. Is there any sort of, I suppose, examples you can give of what an intrinsic value looks like and an extrinsic value, what that looks like?
Yeah, so extrinsic value, I think we can use Tyson Fury as the prime example of this and the journey he went on of aiming to become world champion. And then once he actually achieved that, there was a very hollow and quite shallow feeling, which obviously sent him spiralling. Other extrinsic goals can be houses, cars, watches, a particular savings figure in your bank account can be in there as well. Intrinsic values as an opposite, looking after your family, being a better friend, a better father, better son, obviously for us as men, being able to support your community and being a provider and a protector, they're all intrinsic values. So keeping it in line with those, one way to go from having an extrinsic value to an intrinsic value is to ask yourself why you want that extrinsic goal. So you may want a new house in a nice area. Okay, so it initially feels like an extrinsic value, but if you ask yourself why enough times, you'll find the root cause of that desire. And if we are talking about a new house in a better area, that might be so you've got more safety for your partner. Your kids can go to a better school with a better education. Your kids can go out at night and be safer. So we can actually find that although the extrinsic value may be initially what we want, if we strip it back, there will be an intrinsic value behind it. And if we focus more on the intrinsic, it is likely to actually motivate us much more and to make us be more determined when things get difficult to chase after that. Do you want a nice house to put a picture of on Instagram, or do you want your kids and your partner to be safe? I would say the latter, because we've stripped it back to what's intrinsic. So yeah,
that's number one. So
that's number one.
Looking for something intrinsic. What's the second two?
The second one would be to be ambitious, overreach, feel intimidated by the goals that you set yourself. For a lot of people who were listening, I would ask you, when was the last time you really focused for 6 months on something? When was the last time that all of your actions, all of your intentional daily and weekly habits were focused on reaching a goal? I know for me it was only probably 18 months ago, a year ago, where I actually did that for the first time in my life. And the amount of progress that you can make in a short period when you're actually focused on the outcome is unbelievable. For myself, last year, due to injury and some disappointments that meant I couldn't train the way I like to train, I had to go running from July to December, purely focused on running, enjoyed the process, wanted to accomplish something that I've always wanted to do. Went from running 4 mile to 62 mile in 4 months. Now, if you told me in July, in 4 months' time, you're going to run 100 kilometres, I'd have just laughed at you. But because there was focus there, because there was an intrinsic value for what I wanted to achieve, it became possible. And I'm not an out of the ordinary person. That's something anybody can do. So number 2 would be ambitious. Definitely be ambitious, because you really don't know what you're capable of when you just focus for a sustained period of time.
Number 3?
Yeah, so number 3 would be to structure your goal and to structure your plan and how you're going to achieve it. So in the work that we do, we use SMART actions. So you have specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and then time bound as well. All of them really crucial. For me, the most important one is actually the time bounding that I've found of late. Giving yourself that pressure to accomplish your goal in a specific time. If you don't apply that time bounding, how do you ever know when you're supposed to be getting there? How do you put a plan in place on when you're going to get there?
We've all heard, I'll start Monday, I'll start whenever, or when I book the holiday, that's when I'll start training. I think that's right, isn't it? It creates urgency. And I think also as well, it gives you an opportunity, because some people are on the other side of that who will just spin the wheels.
Yeah.
Who just, they feel like they're doing the same thing week in, week out, but not going up, not going down, just staying in the middle, but they're never reviewing it or having that time-bound goal of, by this date, I will hit X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
Like, your example of running, you had a date that you had to work towards, so the urgency is there week by week, creep up the miles, make it more difficult. So it is, I agree, I think that's one of the most important parts of that smart action plan.
And you can use external time bounding, so it might not actually be you who dictates when the date is, but if you're looking to start running, for instance, pick a marathon.
Yeah.
Pick an ultra marathon, pick a trail race or a 10k. If you're looking to go and take on a new job, book the assessment for the qualification that you need. You're looking to pass your driving test. Before you even start your lessons, book your driving test.
Yeah.
Make sure that there's a time bound in place for you, and all of a sudden then that just then creates the rest of your plan. How do you make a marathon plan when you don't know when your marathon is? So time bounding. The other ones are extremely important, but for me personally, and what I've found, having that date, that period that you have to be ready by, work backwards from that then, and it improves your chances of success massively.
Cool.